What is next for Call of Duty Zombies? It's a question that I feel like a lot of us were asking even before Black Ops 7 ended, but now that it did end and we had the fucking ending that was Rex Infernus, which, by the way, I made a whole video slash rant talking about it. Most of you watched that, and by the way, the support on that video was crazy. Thank you so much for watching. But after that ending and seeing what Treyarch decided to do with the crew and the supposed setup we're getting, which I don't feel like it's a setup at all, I think this question is now more important than ever because actually, what the hell are they going to do? Because in case you weren't aware, for the past pretty much 6 years, we have been getting zombies consistently. From Cold War to Vanguard to MWZ to Black Ops 6 to now Black Ops 7. And now, in case you were somehow under a rock and didn't know, MW4 is going to be the next COD we're getting, and as far as we're aware, from all the marketing and everything that's been said, this game will not have zombies, and I hope to God that's the case. I really hope they don't do this shit where, like, at the end of the game and the final mission of the campaign, Price and Ghost are fighting, and after a bunch of QTEs, they both fall to the ground, and Ghost is like, "Oh, Price, we can't keep fighting. You know we are the Modern Warfare 4. And Price just looks at him, then they start kissing, and out of nowhere, they get teleported to Rust, but it's at night, and then you hear the round change music, and then it's zombies, and it's... Please, please don't do that. Modern Warfare has never needed zombies. Modern Warfare Zombies was an atrocity, which if you want to know why I hate it so much, go to the before mentioned video. And I really feel like more than just the fact that Modern Warfare should never have zombies, Treyarch needs a break. Treyarch has been working non-stop basically since Cold War, so 6 years ago, and if you take into account the fact that they basically had to crunch their way through the quarantine and then right after Cold War get to work on Vanguard, which they clearly just did not have time to actually properly finish, and then just get whipped by Activision right into MWZ, which suffered from these same exact problems, and then you take into account that while they were working on Vanguard and while they were working on MWZ, they still had to develop Black Ops 6. And then you realize that these poor developers are fucking slaves. Like, obviously I'm not an insider, I am a nobody, but when it comes to somebody like Mr. Raffle Waffles, who does have insiders and does know people that work at Treyarch, and he himself is aware of this and he feels pity for them and just states the fact that these people go through so many challenges in that company trying to get these games out, and that is only taking into account the zombie games, because I guarantee you a lot of these developers are pulled to work on stuff like the campaign and the multiplayer or the battle royale for these other games which they should not be working on, which consequentially affects the quality of the games we do get from them. Like, I don't doubt the BO7 campaign was affected by this. Hell, every aspect of the game must have been affected by this, including the story. So what are they gonna do? I really hope that, you know, like I mentioned before, MW4 doesn't have any zombies and no intervention from Treyarch. Supposedly, and I mean supposedly, after MW4 we should be getting a Sledgehammer Games game. I could be wrong, I heard something about them getting fired, but I don't know. Enlighten me in the comments if you know more about this than me. But supposedly there should be at least 2 years where Treyarch doesn't have to put out another AAA Call of Duty game. And let me tell you, already that is not a lot. Now back in the day, you know, with games like Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, those games were made on 2-year development cycles. But Black Ops 3 was the first Call of Duty that was made in a 3-year development cycle, and you could really see it. That game had a proper polish and sheen to it that we had literally never seen before. And while you could use that fact to say something like, oh, back then we had some of the best Call of Duty games of all time on a 2-year development cycle, you gotta realize things don't work like they used to anymore. The bar has been raised so high that 2 years is just not enough. Okay, you gotta realize most of these new Call of Duties, even though they might be getting made in like 2 or 3 years or maybe 1.5 years, do you see the title sequences and just how many fucking studios are working on these games? It's like a mishmash. It's an actual just random grouping of pretty much any random person they can find on the street that can turn on a computer and just begging them and throwing money at them so they can work on the game so they can put it out in the timeline or fashion that Activision wants them to. So realistically, this is probably the thing that's gonna happen with the potential Black Ops 8. I mean, hell, we had maps in Black Ops 7 that were confirmed to be mostly worked on by other studios, like Totenreich. Arguably, one of the best maps in the game was practically worked on by High Moon Studios and not Treyarch in-house, which, it might make you think, what do we even need Treyarch for at this point if some of these developers are making better maps than them, but that's a whole other topic. What I actually do want to talk about and tackle in this video is how exactly they're going to be moving forward with zombies. After it wasn't a disaster, but there was definitely some issues going on with Call of Duty as a brand on the larger scale, and how that affects zombies, and how we could possibly see either zombies evolve, maybe devolve. Could we get a standalone game? Mainly just theorizing about that. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. The first thing I want to talk about is how could they evolve, or like I mentioned, devolve the gameplay. Obviously, the gameplay of a COD Zombies game is the most important. At the end of the day, it is a game. Game comes first. And in my opinion, I know everybody doesn't agree with this. A lot of people are OG COD glazers and swear up and down that anything that is after Black Ops 3 is just blasphemy and should never be done. But I actually do enjoy a lot of the aspects of modern zombies. Now, do I enjoy the high rounds? No. Do I enjoy the health and those values? No. Do I enjoy armor? No. Do I enjoy the way score streaks are implemented? No. So yeah, I practically don't enjoy like 80% of the modern mechanics, but I do enjoy how the games feel. I am a sucker for movement, I'll admit it. Almost all of my favorite games of all time have a lot of good movement in them. That being said, if the good movement is the excuse for these devs to make zombies super sprint and have the high rounds just look like an actual crackhead convention, then I think that movement should go. Okay, I'm not one of those people that advocates for slower zombies. I think the hit speed in Black Ops 3, while not perfectly fine and should be toned down just a bit, I think people like CJ Santa, for as much as I love some of his videos, is a bit exaggerated. And you shouldn't really use criticisms like, oh, I'm old. You saying, oh, I'm old should not be a criticism towards a game. I digress though, that's not the point. I think we should return to a more classic movement style. That being said, I do enjoy movement text. I enjoy things like PhD slider. I enjoy bosses that make you move around. I enjoy when enemies make you stay on your toes. I do like all of that, so I would like a kind of continuation of that. When it comes to the point system, I think Treyarch knows at this point we all prefer the classic point system. It's just more balanced. It's just more fun. It changes the way you look at the game, especially in the early rounds. It makes you strategize a lot more than the, I guess you could call it, standard point system. So I think that should make a return. When it comes to other core mechanics outside of that, I think the perk system we have now is fine. Is it perfect? No, I think it does have some issues, like the fact that, especially in standard mode, which, by the way, a little spoiler, I think standard mode should be fucking gone. I think something like Cursed should be the standard. In case you don't know what Cursed is, it is basically just something that is a lot more in line with Classic, and it was something that was introduced in BO7. By the way, one of the best mechanics introduced in BO7 was Cursed mode, and I think it should return for every subsequent COD Zombies game. Relics are a really cool idea that unite the community and give us a lot more to do after the main Easter egg of the map is done and the side Easter eggs are encountered, and it overall just changes the pace of the game, and it's just a really good idea that I think should be continued. I think armor should be maybe not removed, but tweaked. I think the relic that was recently added, I don't remember which one it was, but it was the relic that makes it so that you start with no armor and can only get gold armor, is honestly, like, it should be the way the game is played. It actually makes the game feel 10 times more tense. It makes it better. It overall just makes you feel more rewarded for actually getting to that point. The only tweak I would make, I guess, is just make armor an actual mechanic of the map, like a shield. Instead of being something you just buy for 40,000 points whenever you farm enough points. Just make it so that each map has its own dedicated armor/shield quest. By the way, I would prefer a switch over to the shield, but I actually don't hate the idea of armor as much as many people do. I just hate the plating up. I just think plating up should never be in zombies. I think Cold War honestly did it best. But if we do need to have armor for whatever fucking reason, first off, make it zombified. Make it actually work inside of the game universe and look part of the aesthetic. And second, make it something you can organically obtain. This also goes for score streaks. I actually do not hate the score streak system. I only hate the way you acquire them. Like, how cool would it be if mangler cannons could only be acquired by taking down manglers in a particular set of ways? That's not saying we need manglers back, because God knows we don't, but if we were to have more score streaks of the like, it would be really cool to see stuff like that. What if the things like the Disciple injection or Mangler injection, or maybe if you want to get creative, Zursa injection or Megaton injection, what if the only way you could get these things was by taking down elite zombies with melee attacks? technically like harvesting them and taking away their essence. That would be a cool idea. I don't know about you, I like that. And then you could have more things like the mech from Kawakujo as a side Easter egg, actual map integrated score streaks that are exclusive to those maps and are acquired in special and unique ways that make the map have more identity. I think all of these things have been built upon on BO7, and especially Curse was like the first time that Treyarch kind of conceded and in a way bent a knee to the classic community, giving us something that we all wanted. Now, is it perfect? No, it's like I mentioned before, there's still a lot of flaws with it, but it is a good step in the right direction. And I hope that Treyarch sees that, hey, more people, and the people that actually care, not whoever is a casual who just plays 12 hours of multiplayer every day and then just stops for one match of zombies, the people that actually love your fucking game, that have been here for years, we prefer this. So in my eyes, the perfect way I see this being done is take away standard and make the standard mode cursed, and whatever mechanics you have in standard could be applied to directed. Now, there is a lot of drama surrounding Directed, especially recently, because the last two Easter eggs, and presumably even before that, have been totally and completely leaked by the fact that Directed mode steps are always in the files even before the mode is added. Therefore, leakers get a hold of that and manage to ruin the surprise for everybody else. Now, I do not think this is the fault of Directed. I genuinely think this is just a security issue. There is no way a multi-billion-dollar company like Activision cannot pay Treyarch enough to find a way to actually secure their files in a way that does not allow players to just completely leak secrets like this. This should not be happening, okay? The existence of a casual-friendly mode that allows people who are just not interested or don't have the skill to actually experience these Easter eggs by themselves, because, you know, these quests take hours of people's lives and an insane amount of effort in some cases, and are really fun to do, and some people just can't deal with the challenges that come in between them. So Directed is just a great bridge for those people. I just don't think it should be ruining the experiences of the hardcore players that actually want, you know, a good Easter egg hunt. And speaking of which, I personally think, especially now in BO7, Treyarch has really gotten into this rhythm of actually creating really fun and good hunts for Easter eggs. Now, while I do know that some people were having issues with the Kawakujo, especially near the end of the hunt, I still think most of us prefer a long hunt, even if some steps are kind of fucky in a big way, over having a boring hunt that just lasts 2 or 3 or maybe 4 hours. Because I think Treyarch has actually found the perfect formula for an Easter egg that is hard to find but easy to replicate. Because, you know, Rex and Furnace, for as annoying as those mirror steps were, is actually pretty fun to do once you get the hang of it. And that goes for almost every modern Zombies Easter egg, you know, outside of Cold War and stuff like that, which in my opinion were too easy. It's like this rings true especially for BO7. Easter eggs like Totenreich, Paradox Junction, Ashes of the Dam to a certain degree are so fun to get through once you have all those steps memorized, and you can feel a good sense of progression and a good sense of rhythm every time you go through these Easter eggs back to back. That also goes for the boss fights. I think we have reached a really good point where most boss fights just feel really fun to get through, and while some people might not like a boss fight like the Rex and Furnace one, and I'm specifically talking about Mr. Waffles here, though I do kind of feel like he was just really burnt out at the time he tried that, and he was just not in a good mood, outside of the fact that his loadout kind of sucked, but I digress, that's not what the video is about. I actually really like the design we've been getting for bosses, not just in BO7, but BO6 too. I think Treyarch has really stepped it up, and again has found a really good formula to make a satisfying boss outside of Paradox Junction, which I think is like the only miss we've had in recent time. Also, the Caltheris boss, I actually am not a huge fan of that fight. I do not like how it can just juggle you endlessly. It was really close to being good too. I think just a few tweaks and a few different things would have made it a lot more satisfying of a fight. But again, that's just kind of the exception. Every other fight in this game is actually amazing. I really like them. And even Paradox Junction, I can find fun in a lot of situations. Moving on from the Easter eggs and their gameplay structure, I actually want to talk about another topic I don't see a lot of people tackling when it comes to discussing what's next for zombies, and that is progression. And I don't just mean the in-game progression, you know, that you get through Pack-a-Punch, Power, Easter egg, Shield, all that shit. I mean the outside progression that was introduced in Cold War. In case you don't know, in Cold War, they introduced Ethereum crystals that you could get as a reward for completing round milestones, and you could use these crystals to upgrade things about the gameplay. Like, you could add extra abilities to your perks, you could permanently upgrade your melee attacks, you could permanently upgrade entire weapon classes, which in retrospect is kind of insane, and a lot of people liked it. I actually did like it, but some others didn't, because permanent outside of game progression kind of fucks up the whole flow of the game. And then in Vanguard, one of the only good things Vanguard did was actually add that, but as an in-game kind of thing, where you could buy perks again to upgrade their effects throughout the match. Now, I think that system, while a good idea, was actually kind of just not fleshed out as much. And so in Black Ops 6/Black Ops 7, the way they upgraded this whole system was with augments. That being that you could research separate perks and ammo mods and stuff like that to add new abilities that you could pick and choose from, only letting you choose one major and one minor. And if you fully researched a single item, you could put on up to 2 minors. Now, I actually am not a huge fan of augments, and let me tell you why. It is actually very simple. It is just the fact that not only is the grind insane, and also the grind just doesn't make sense. Because you would think, common sense would tell you, oh, if I'm researching Juggernog, maybe I have to buy Juggernog and get hit to research Juggernog. Or if I want to research Speed Cola, maybe I have to buy Speed Cola and reload to research Speed Cola. But no, you just choose whatever you want to research, and even if it's, I don't know, fucking Brain Rot, and then you play 10 games where you never use Brain Rot, you will fully research Brain Rot somehow. It's purely based off of playtime and XP, which I think is a horrible system. But outside of that, the grind is just ridiculous. Honestly, BO6/BO7 is new player hell. The best example of this being the Smith Plays, when he finally returned to Zombies after years of not uploading anything, and he, was trying to help with the Kawakujo Easter egg, and he was getting butt fucked and mouth fucked by every single zombie because he didn't have augments. Because playing without augments in modern zombies is actual hell for anybody who is not, used to the speed of this game, especially as you progress through the rounds. And again, for new players, it is an insane grind that I don't think should exist. I like the idea of augments, but I don't like the way they're implemented. Instead, I think we should find a way to actually put that system inside of the game. And here's how I see it. The way I would implement this is the same philosophy as Vanguard. Keep all this progression inside of the game. And while there could be a lot of systems and a lot of ways of doing it, and to be fair, I don't even think my system is all that good, so if any of you have any ideas, leave it in the comments, I'm all ears. My personal take on this would be, every time you buy a perk, you can go up to that perk machine and you can choose one of 3 or maybe more if they're added through the life cycle, random minor upgrades. Now, this isn't immediate, as you buy the perk. Or you can do it, but it's not forced upon you, because imagine you're just running through a horde trying to buy stamina up and then a little menu pops up and you get fucked in the ass. No, this is something you get once you buy the perk. You can hold square or whatever the interact button on the machine is again, and you get to choose one of 3 random upgrades. And these are free. These just come with buying the perk, but you can only choose one. And if you want a major upgrade, they are locked behind paying half of the price of the perk again. That way, you can still have the augment system, which I actually like, but implemented in an in-game progression kind of way, and it doesn't require this insidious and stupid grind outside of the game. When it comes to ammo mods, the way I would have it is just make it natural in-game progression, but kind of upgrading system. The more you use the ammo mod, or the more times it's triggered throughout the match, it'll actually unlock different upgrades. Outside of that, the only other system I can think of is field upgrades, but honestly, at this point, I don't even think I want field upgrades. Like, to be fair, I don't want field upgrades to be a thing you can choose in a menu and go in as a loadout. I think maybe they should not, first off, they should not be called field upgrades, because that's just not zombies. Like, they should maybe just go back to being called specialist weapons or whatever the hell, and make them map exclusive. Just make special abilities you can only get in specific maps, and you have to work towards them. And maybe if you do have it that way, you can also have a system where the more you use them, or the more you do whatever the fuck with them, the more kills you get with them. You can add challenges to them specific to each map, kind of like Gorod Krovi, and they unlock different abilities, and they get upgraded through the match. I think that is a good system that could help them. And in a potential super Easter egg, they could allow you to choose whatever abilities you wanted, whatever score streaks that were maybe tied to a map, and add them to other maps. I don't know, maybe that's just, I'm just spitballing here. But overall, I think Black Ops 7 made a ton of good ideas and a ton of good decisions when it came to upgrading the gameplay and, refining the modern formula to its highest form. And I think we are very close to just having a perfect formula. We just have to make a few tweaks, which, I know my tweaks aren't perfect, but those are just my ideas. Again, if you have any ideas, just leave them down in the comments. But now that I got all of the major ideas I had for gameplay out of my mind, I want to move on to the second topic, and what is, in my opinion, the second most important thing in any Zombies game, and that is the story and aesthetics. Now, when it comes to story, we are in kind of a rough point in time. In case you, again, did not watch the before mentioned video, the ending for BO7 was pretty lackluster. Was it the worst thing ever? No, but it was entirely a nothing burger. We are essentially at the exact same point we left out at MWZ, which is the Requiem crew are dead, the Warden is dead, Ava is out there and presumably not going to do anything of any importance. The ending of BO6 is still not confirmed and probably won't matter for shit. Samantha is dead because Treyarch knows how to write games apparently. And the OG4, or this version of the OG4, which I'm going to call Nostalgias, are out there and supposedly have a fate to fulfill. The reason I know this is because while there was originally a theory that, you know, at the end of the Rex and Furnace cutscene, they all got sent to their own dimensions, if you pay attention to what Ava says before she sends them off, she says something along the lines of your threads remain bound, so you must continue your journey or something like that, which implies these four still have a story to tell. And furthermore, if you look at these side quest kind of little conversations you can find in the map, they all have unique dialogue for each character. And when it comes to a character, I heard one for Richtofen, which was Ava telling him something that, oh, your heart is full of darkness right now, but your fate actually, basically saying he's going to be responsible for the lives of thousands, so he can't be bad anymore, so they're going to have to put him on a journey to make him good, which, aside from just sounding like the worst writing ever, like, I just feel there's no way you can execute that and actually make it believable or, you know, feel earned. It confirms that there is still more to tell with these characters, and, you know, obviously the fact that at the end of the cutscene it's at the end for now. So we are 100% going to continue with these four. That is all but guaranteed. And what do I want to see with them? Honestly, I have no idea, and this is something I said in my last video. I legitimately have no fucking clue what you could possibly do with these characters at this point. The Warden is dead. And at this point, the Forsaken should be dead too. Samantha is dead. These characters are presumably gonna stay in the Dark Ether. I don't see why they would leave. Maybe they would go to other dimensions. That is realistically the only possible setting I could see for the stories of these characters. Maybe taking them on different maps, on different timelines. Kind of like what BO3 did. If you really think about it, that's literally just BO3, just going to different timelines and different dimensions. So maybe it's just that. But what they would be doing just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe they bring back Dr. Monty and Shadow Man. Maybe they fuse them both. I don't know, some bullshit like that. That is realistically the only outcome I could see them doing. So I'm sorry, but as far as story goes, I just don't have much to say because Treyarch have not given us a whole lot to go on. Victus still remains untouched, which by the way is stupid because in case you didn't know, in Classified on BO4, there was an audio that is implied to take place after Talk Der Toten, in which you can hear Stuhlinger, presumably with the rest of the Victus cast, basically saying, oh, Richtofen, we can't hear you anymore, obviously because at that point Ultimus Richtofen is dead, and basically asking for help. They're in a dark and damp place and there's like cockroaches or something and they don't know where they are, which presumably means that they got trapped in the Dark Ether. Right after Talk Der Toten, they got thrown into the Dark Ether along with everything else that was in the past story, and they have been trapped there presumably for millions of years because, you know, Dark Ether time doesn't work like real world time. So by the time we see them, if we ever do see them, they probably could be creatures like the Forsaken or Shadowsmiths. You know, they could have evolved to that point, or maybe they're just same old Victus. Who knows? The point is, they are still a threat that has not been touched on, not even referenced. Like, we have not seen shit about them for years. It's like the writers just forgot that that threat was still left open, which at this point I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't touched at all. The only other possible thing I could see them maybe trying to touch on is Chaos, because Chaos was still left on a cliffhanger, and according to what we saw, even though those elements weren't used properly, Chaos is still canon to the Dark Ether universe. So maybe they use these core 4, and the next Black Ops 8 game also has 8 characters for a main crew, and it's going to be the 4 Chaos members and the OG4, which I don't know if I would entirely like. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the Chaos crew. I do like a little bit of Bruno. I like Shaw a little bit. I don't like Diego or Scarlet. But hey, maybe they could be written better, which, you know, with these writers, who knows. I don't know exactly how you would even fit it into that story. It's just such a mess. It's honestly just hard to theorize because Treyarch legitimately just doesn't give us anything. We know that Peck is trapped in the Dark Ether, which by the way is ridiculous. That could be a threat that could be followed up on, or yet again another thing the writers just shove up their ass and pretend never happened. Honestly, who knows? The only other thing I can touch on is the aesthetics, which honestly I just don't have a lot to say on. Black Ops 7 did an amazing job when it came to aesthetics. Every single map in this game, and yes, even Paradox Junction, even though the, I guess you could call it past, isn't all that interesting, it still looks pretty colorful, it looks pretty nice, and the destroyed version of Nuketown is gorgeous. I absolutely love the aesthetic of that. And every other map in this game, even if you could make the argument that maybe Totenreich is a little bit too blue, and there's not a lot of, difference in the aesthetic, it's still gorgeous. Like, every map in this game, from art direction, from setting, has been great. All of these maps look great, and I hope they keep it up. I have honestly basically no worries when it comes to the aesthetics. I think we are going to keep getting gorgeous maps, gorgeous settings, presumably still good writing for the quotes specifically, but honestly, who can say? The story was left off in such a weird manner. It honestly feels like the writers are trying to scramble right now at the office, trying to come up with an excuse to make Black Ops 8. So, honestly, I'm sorry. I wish I could say more, but there's just not more to say. The last thing I want to touch on, because this video is getting fucking long, is the potential and honestly low chances that we get a standalone Zombies game. Oh, the potential Zombies game. The thing everybody who has ever played Zombies and liked it once. Hell, even people who are not in the community that see the current situation and the current direction that Call of Duty has been going in for the past few years even say this. And, you know, it could work. I think this is something that even Treyarch knows, even Activision under bated breaths know that a standalone Zombies game would work. But would it make them as much money as the regular COD games, my bad? I don't think so. You know, sadly, I just don't think that's the case. Even if you made it with the concept that, I think it was CJ Santa, I could be wrong, but I think it was CJ Santa that came up with the concept of making just your standard Call of Duty game. You know, have a campaign, have a multiplayer, but it's all based around the world of zombies. And as cool as that idea is, and honestly, like, ever since I heard that idea from him, I fell in love with it. I just don't think Activision would ever have the balls to go for it. As much as I think it would be successful in its own right, and it would definitely cultivate, you know, the idea of having an ultimate zombies game that has all the maps, and it has all the modes, and all the guns, and it's just like a mishmash of everything, essentially like a hub, has always been a good idea that a lot of the community has had. I just don't think Activision would ever go for it. They are too money hungry, too scared, especially with the recent years of Call of Duty, to ever take a risk like that. You know, the Megumi is there. Okay, this game could, the potential for a standalone Zombies game is huge. It could legitimately be one of the best Call of Duty games of all time, and still they wouldn't take the plunge because the amount of money they make from regular COD games yearly is just too big. They would never take that dip in money unless they somehow just let Treyarch off their leash and legitimately just like funded their own side project, kind of like a side game that costs like $40. I just don't see it happening, sadly. As much as I want it to happen, as much as I've dreamt of it ever since I was a kid, it'll probably never happen. The cards are just not in for it. And as things are right now, the next COD game with zombies we're getting is probably just going to be Black Ops 8 or maybe just Black Ops, whatever other subtitle they come up with. And frankly, I think that's the best we can ask for right now. BO7, for as bad of a taste it left in my mouth with that ending, is still a great game. I will probably come back to it. I will probably keep enjoying it. I liked a lot of the challenges. I hope we get a super Easter egg, because if we don't, it's just another fucking disappointing thing to add into the pile of shit we got with this game. But overall, I'm happy with it. I'd say I'm satisfied. It's better than anything we've had over the past few years. I hope Treyarch realizes that they have a lot of potential with the work they've been cooking up for the past few years, and all they need to do is just get a little bit more time and just lock the fuck in, and we could genuinely have the next Black Ops 3. We actually could. Also, I mean, I guess mod support would really be a thing they would consider there. I honestly think if the next Black Ops game has mod support, it's fucking wraps. Like, integrate that shit with the Steam Workshop. We got another BO3. But outside of that, I just really hope it's good, man. That's really all I can say. The future is kind of uncertain. You know, we know we're getting more, but will the quality stay up? Will they actually listen? Will we get a big shakeup in gameplay? Because, you know, for the past few years, the formula has been pretty stagnant. Yes, there's been augments, there's been little tweaks here and there, but it's like you can play Cold War, go to BO6, and there's differences, but it's still the same formula. Same way if you go from BO6 to BO7, it's pretty much the same game. Same with Vanguard, same with MWZ. They're all the same blueprint with just very slight tweaks. So could BO8 be the first big shakeup? Like, could we get a huge change to systems, to the way guns work? Like, could we get an actually new fucking game, a new game engine? All we can do is hope. And me personally, that's what I'm doing. So I know most of you probably didn't watch this video all the way, but if you did, hey, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos. It means a shit ton, more than you can imagine. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, night, or morning, whatever it is. I love you all, and thanks for 1,000 subscribers. Thanks for the support. I never thought I would get here. And yeah, I love you all. Bye.